on Facebook. Welcome, everyone. We are live on this lovely Monday. Delusional or faithful? Because this is a question. How do you tell the difference if you're being delusional or if you're being faithful? Well, first, we have to know the origin. Are you aware that you create? If you are aware that you create, do you know what you want to create? And do you simply say, come, you call it? Because you know that you're the sculptor. You know that you're the potter. You know that you're the gardener. So when you know that you're those things, you plant the seed, you select your clay, you choose your marble based upon what? What it is you're creating. Because how much clay do you need? Well, that depends. What are you creating? You know the origin of why you do what you do. Now, you see, the delusional part is you don't know that you're creating. You have no idea. You're just going about your life in the dark. You have no idea that you're creating, and you hear that you can manifest your life. You heard about a technique, but yet you don't know for sure. And so we start out with this hoping and wishing and, you know, praying, the old fashioned way. We start out there and we are hoping for the best, but we have in the back of our minds, you know what? I'm going to hope for the best, but plan for the worst. Huh? See, that's the difference between knowing that you are a deliberate creator and not knowing that you are a creator. That is the difference. When you know that you are the one creating your life, you don't walk around thinking that, well, I heard this could work, but I'm just not sure. I'm just going to throw mud at the wall and see what sticks. You don't go out into the world saying, I'm looking for Miss Right or I'm looking for Mr. Right. You aren't going to find them if you don't create them. So you see, being faithful means you know what you are creating. You plant the seed and you spend your time rehearsing how you're going to interact with that seed that you've planted that now becomes this blossoming fruit. You know how you're going to do that. So that's what you faithfully remain doing, rehearsing, practicing, as opposed to delusion. Well, it may happen, it may not happen. I don't know. I don't know. Let me call George. I need somebody to talk me through this. No. You see, delusional is also a word that we have learned. We think we have faith, or we think we're exercising our faith when we worry, when we fret. That is not faith. See, faith is not blind. The moment you say, oh, what am I creating here? And you jot it down and you just get clear and you say, that's it. That's the one. And you say, I am that. I am. You know you've created it. And you go about your business rehearsing it. You're not hoping. You are in excited anticipation. It's just like you gardening. Just like when you garden, you know this harvest is imminent. And your only job is to make sure weeds don't overgrow it, random squirrels don't dig it up. That's your job. Why is that? Because you are protecting your harvest. So when you have thoughts in the garden of your mind, you don't add contrary thought. This would be the delusional part. You have planted your seeds, yet you're going to come along and sit there and go, man, this is far fetched, I've never seen it work for anybody else. Well, I heard it could work, but I've never seen the evidence of it. But my mother said, oh, but my father, but. And we make excuses. And what do? Pour vinegar on the garden we've just planted. All because why? We're racked with fear. That brings about the delusion where you feel like you're going nuts. Somebody says to you, rehearse the experience you want to have, and you think it's nuts. Listen, an actor or actress, when they have to cry on a dime, do you think they woke up yesterday and said, I can cry on a dime? No. They had to conjure up an image. If the first image didn't work to bring about those tears, they found another image. If that image didn't work, what did they do? Practiced another image. Why? Because they had to practice and rehearse so that when they heard action, those tears came rolling down, and you are sitting there watching the big screen and you're like, oh my God, how'd they do that? How'd they make it look so easy? Are they delusional? No. They know that as actors, in order to be convincing, they must rehearse their role. Where is the delusion there? It is not. Well, you would think it would be delusional because it's just a movie, right? But no, they had to act as if. They have to behave as if. They can't be delusional. They can't say, well, maybe the audience will believe me if I just scritch my face up. No, they won't believe you. They won't. We've seen it a million times on YouTube when somebody pretends to cry. And we can tell the difference between pretend and real. But what's that difference? They know their role. And they know they have to rehearse it just like you and I must do. But we feel kind of funny. We feel funny in our minds because we feel like, oh, they're going to laugh at me. Well, that'd be the delusional part. How are they going to laugh at you when they want the same thing as you, but you're the one putting in the work to get it? They just feel as if they're nuts. They just feel it. But when you know for fact that imagining creates reality, you know that you will take the time to choose the thing you are imagining because you know, listen, as long as I imagine this thing and rehearse it, it will come to pass because that is its role. And that way, you're not sitting there worrying and fretting and pacing. You don't need to do those things. You don't need to fake a mood. You don't have to do that. You know that you catch the mood. You don't fake it. You don't pretend. Why? You're not pretending because you know the imaginal act that you rehearse over and over in the invisible mental realm. You know as sure as if you go outside at springtime and plant that seed, you know it is inevitable for you to bring about a harvest. You also know it is inevitable for night to follow day. You know it is inevitable. Spring, winter, summer, fall. That's just understood. You know this. So because you don't see summer yet, are you delusional and expecting it to be there? And, oh, well, I hope it shows up. No, you know that it shows up. You are confident that it shows up. So you faithfully plan your harvest by knowing what it is you want to eat or experience. So you plan and behave accordingly. You can't see spring yet, but the drawer is full of seeds. You've got the fertilizer ready. You've got the little trellises ready. Are you delusional? No. You are planning based upon what you know to be fact. If I plant it, I must reap it. And it is exactly the same for the experience you want to have in your physical world. Because if you think about it, you had to choose those seeds mentally. You have to sit there and think, what do I want to eat in this garden? Do I want chickens? Do I want ducks? You have to sit there and think about it. And when you finally decided, well, then you acted accordingly. You built your chicken run. You sectioned off everything. You have your water barrels, your rain barrels. You've got those all set up and ready to go. But we're not even there yet, Angela. It's still kind of frosty. And you've got these rain barrels out? There's no rain. You must be delusional. Am I? Is spring not coming? Do you know that spring is not coming? Of course you know spring is coming, so you plan accordingly. Which means you remain faithful to that which you have planted. That's what you've done. You're not delusional because you're planting according to the harvest you want to reap. And you also know that the moment you choose what it is, it's out of your hands. It will unfold. It will root, shoot, flower, and fruit. And your only job is to make sure you weed, you fertilize, and you prune. That's your job. Why? Because things die for want of attention. So no, you say, what? I really want this thing. I really must have this thing. Now this is where the delusion will come in. Because you're sitting here saying, I want this, I must have it. My life can't change unless I get it. That's the delusion. But the faithful know life cannot change on the outside unless I change on the inside. So they spend their time and effort doing what? Changing on the inside to bring about the exterior. We don't walk around breaking mirrors to say, oh my God, this outfit I'm wearing is so gross. And they bust the mirror. What do? Go and change. Because they know the reflection they're casting. They know that they're the ones casting the reflection. So delusion would be you looking at your world and fighting to change an exterior circumstance through your will, through force. That is delusion. Because you know it is not by might, it is not by power, but it is by your spirit. Where is that? Unseen. So you get inside your mental faculties and you choose that mental cause that will bring about the physical effect. And then you act accordingly out of faith. Why faith? Because you know it is not blind. You're not hoping with faith. You know, I do this, this will happen. But what does that mean? It means you've applied cause and effect. Every cause has its effect, and every effect its cause. So you did it deliberately, knowing the outcome. There's no delusion there. There's no doubt there. Do you get what I'm saying to you today? So it's take your time and ask yourself, wait, I know that I'm supposed to be a doer of the word, but I don't know exactly what I'm doing. And I feel like I'm crazy. I don't know what I'm doing. Let's deal with that right here and right now. Step one, define the objective. Or, what do you want? That is always going to be step one. Why is it important for you to know what you want? Without knowing what you want to eat, how can you get the right ingredients? It always is going to start with, what do I want to experience? And as soon as you choose that, now we can do step two. Step two is to focus on a small scene that confirms to you that you've done it. Why that small scene? Because it's the thing you're going to rehearse to confirm to yourself, Eureka, I have finished it. You're the actor on the stage, and your role is that small scene. Why? Because that's the role you gave yourself for the movie that you're playing out, which is the experience you want to have. So now your only time and focus is spent doing what? Rehearsing until such time that it is second nature, which means you have rehearsed so much you don't think you're in a role anymore that you're pretending. You don't think you're in that anymore. You're like, this is real life. You know, when you listen to some actors, they say to you, they didn't even break character. Even on lunch, they didn't break character. They stayed in the character. They stayed in that place. They spoke like it, walked like, of course, people are looking at them like they're nuts. But they're like, listen, if I want to be convincing to my audience, I must remain and rehearse in this role without breaking character. They're not concerned with, are they going to believe me? Am I good enough? Am I doing it right? No, they just rehearse. They rehearse until they can't get it wrong. It now becomes their second nature. And any great actor worth their salt will tell you that after that role has been played, whew, they got to take time to come down from there now because even their body is convinced. So you see, in step two, you are only focused on the role that you're rehearsing. You are not thinking about, oh dear, am I worthy or unworthy? Am I good enough? Am I deserving of this? It's, no, I can't possibly be. You don't spend time thinking about those things because you know if you stop and polarize yourself in the opposite direction, oh, yes, we said it, polarize. When you are polarized simply on the role and your rehearsal, it begins to bring about step three. Your body begins to respond and says, oh, this is actually happening now. But all you're doing is mentally rehearsing. That's all you're doing, mentally rehearsing. Until what? Neville Goddard says, it takes on the tones of reality, which means your body confirms, oh, yes, I'm so fully immersed in this role. It's hard for me to break out of this role. And when you do that, because you're polarized in that direction, now if you put your attention on all the obstacles or excuses that you could make that can tell you you can't do it, what does your body do? Your body confirms that you can't do it, and your body begins to tell you, oh, imposter, nobody's going to believe you. And we end up in the grips of illusion and delusion. But when you recognize that the real world is built within your imagination, that's where you spend your time because you know, as within, so without. That's what you know to be fact. Why? Because an assumption, though false, meaning you're the actor and you've been cast by, I don't know, Spielberg or Cameron, and you've been cast in one of their roles, and you have to rehearse it and rehearse it and rehearse it. You know you have to act it out. So that's why you're specific about the role you choose. Because if you choose a contrary role, you're going to have to play that contrary part on the stage of your life. You know this to be fact. So that's why you are deliberate when you create. But if you don't know that you are creating, and you walk around and, well, I don't know that this is possible. Well, I'm going to just fake it till I make it. Now you know that you're immersed in the delusion. Because you're doing one thing and hoping for something else. You're contradicting yourself. And what does law say? It says everything must correspond, as above, so below, as within, so without. And that is why you take the time to deliberately choose what role you will play. That's why you do it. Because you know if you are deliberate and you rehearse, you know the stage upon which you're playing. That is the difference between being delusional and being faithful. One of those things you know, the other thing you're just, I don't know, maybe. So, my beautiful friends, take your time today. Take your time today to become deliberate. Know exactly what it is that you want to experience in your life. But you see, that knowing, when you know that I am that, I am, when you know that you are, you choose wisely. You choose from a place of being deliberate. You don't choose from a place of darkness. You create in the light, not in the darkness. That's the difference. You say, well, you know what, I really would like a new business. But I don't know, because business, there's so many components, so many moving parts. I don't know where to begin. That would be darkness. That would be delusion. But you get out your pen and paper and you sit down and you say, listen, I don't know exactly the name of the business. I don't know, but I know what I want this business to do. I know how I want to feel when I'm in this business. And you begin to write that down. Because you know that if you can create electricity to bring about heat, you can bring about heat to create electricity. Which means what? You can use the effect to generate the cause. Because every cause has its effect and every effect its cause. So if you don't know one and you know the other, you can create. But it all comes down to you knowing what it is, not validating what you want to create. Oh, but what if they think I'm too proud? Yeah, but we got a song called "You Ain't Too Proud to Beg." Huh? Think about that for a moment. We don't want to have pride in the fact that, hey, I'm a deliberate creator. But we want to take pride in what? Begging. We're not supposed to beg. You're sovereign, which means you self-govern. How do you self-govern? By being deliberate and being clear about what it is you want to experience, and knowing that when you are clear and you focus on your simple rehearsal. Now, you don't choose a rehearsal that is far-fetched. Why not? If the thing you are creating has congratulations attached to it, go with that, because that is the natural thing that will happen. That's the natural part. A tree, a vine, naturally will have leaves, naturally will give you blossoms. So choose the scene that naturally will follow. If you know somebody's going to insult you because that's the world you live in, well, build from that insult, because the insult tells you you did it and they're jealous of you. I don't always like that one, but if that's your current place, You can always change it, but start there anyhow. You know somebody's going to come along and go, oh my God, how did you get so lucky? All these good things seem to happen to you. Well, then let that be your scene and rehearse how you're going to respond to it. Because you know they're going to say it to you. Just like you know you're going to hear, well, congratulations, good for you. You deserve this. Just like you know you're going to hear that. How does that thing make you feel in your body? Allow that sensation to fill your body, which means allow it to become second nature to you. Because you're not faking it. You know that this same thing you're rehearsing, you're going to do it physically. You know that it is. Just like you know that when you eat beets, well, somebody's going to be peeing red. Don't freak out. You just ate beets. See? But to the one who does not know if you eat beets, that as within, so without, whatever comes out from whichever orifice is going to be tinted with beets. And what do they do when they look in there? Oh my God, I better call the doctor. Whoa, whoa, slow your roll, honey. You only had beets. That's the difference. You see, we know for certain because we are well aware of what we are doing as creators. Yes, move in the direction, which means polarize yourself because you're moving from where you are to where you say you're going. And that's why it helps you to remember there aren't two things, just one. Because what's the one thing? You are the one thing moving between, from, to. And they're the same. They're in the same in their nature. Obviously, to move from wet to dry. It's the same in its nature. So today, my beautiful friends, be deliberate so that you're not delusional. Be deliberate because you know. And if you don't know that you are the one who is creating your experiences, test yourself. And as I say, choose something. If you know that you argue a lot, what do you want to argue about? Choose an argument. Man, I told you that this was going to happen if you did it this way. But make it a good argument, you know? Make it something good that says, look, I told you it would work out for you, but you didn't believe me. Have that argument as opposed to, man, I can't stand you. You're a pain in the ass. No, don't have that kind of argument. Have the argument that says, I told you so. I told you if you applied yourself, you would win. I told you. Have that argument when you test yourself. Because we're good at arguing and we rehearse, don't we? And we like to be right, don't we? So rehearse that part. And when you recognize that you now are saying it physically, because that person, they came and they said, oh my God, I totally listened to what you said. And then you can say, because you'll catch yourself saying, I told you that it was going to work out for you. I told you so, but you don't listen. You're stubborn. That's what it is. Test yourself. Test yourself. And why are you testing yourself? You're testing yourself to see what you know. Why else is there? You're testing yourself to see what you can recall, what you know, or what you've learned. That's what you're testing yourself to prove. Let us take a moment, shall we, to welcome everyone into the space. Jeff, I see you, sweetie. Over here in these Twitter streets. Facebook, we got Indy. YouTube. Sugar Vision. Tiffany, darling, be deliberate and focused. Move in the direction of your vision. Yes. Shea Butter, the better man. A not. And for the others who've not made themselves known, I see you. Fan base, who's here? Let me lean back from this bright light. Whew. Z Steve Marquise. Ah, Kay is here. Coach. Tiffany. Oh, yeah. Hey. Ali flows, smiles. Hey, she's there too. Omnipresent. Summer Rose, you're here too, baby. Afternoon delight, she's here. KZ, my melanin, Oracle Treehouse, and Zola. That means we're missing Yolanda, right? Anyhow, when you are deliberate, because you know how these things turn out, you're not going to be delusional. Because you can't be both of them. You can't be both of them. Right? Because only one of them will get your attention and hold it. So that's why in step 2, after you know what you want and you begin to focus there, that's why step 3 happens automatically without any kind of effort or fretting or forcing. Because the thing that you know that you want to create and you focus on it, it will bring about a physiological sensation in your body that confirms to you that, hey, this is happening. Or it's going to tell you, you don't believe that. Look at you. Oh, you think you can do it? See, that's the difference. If you doubt yourself and you're riddled with it, well, that's what's going to show up in the body. But if you remember that the outside world is like clay, it is like velvet, and you're the seamstress. Where's Bree? I haven't seen Miss Bree in a while. But if you know that your outside world is like that fabric that you measure and you cut, right? Why would you measure? You measure because it is in the measuring that you are deliberate. Why? Because if you know you're a size, whatever you are, you deliberately cut to fit that size. You don't say, well, I know I'm actually this size, but I'm going to go a couple sizes smaller in the hopes that. Delusion. So be deliberate. Choose what it is you will become and rehearse it mentally. Because without that mental, it is always happening. Try as you might to disprove it. Pay attention to yourself and you will see that you don't move unless you are inspired. And what does that word entail? Something came out of you, so it has to be in there. It's within. You are moved from within. That's why motivation doesn't last very long, because somebody's got to come along and hype you up. But when you are inspired, when you are fired up, nothing can stop you. But that comes from within the self. As within, so without. And that's why one must be deliberate. But we are deliberate because we know that the thing that most people say is imaginary, we know that it is the imaginary creating the physical. And thus we don't go out fighting shadows. That's exhausting because nothing changes. It doesn't change if you're fighting the shadow. But what you do is you get inside and you say, ooh, that exterior thing is no longer working for me. So let me get it on the inside. Okay, here's what it is that I want to do now. Here's how I want to behave. And you rehearse. And you rehearse. And you rehearse until you notice when you're deliberate and you rehearse, You don't check the clock and say, are we there yet? Because you'll know when you get there, because it is now your second nature. You get up and you're living it. You've become it. And because you have become it mentally, you must see the evidence of your harvest physically. That is the beauty of what we have been given when we take a hold of the law and use it deliberately, instead of listening to random things without any sort of comprehension and still stumbling around in the dark. The law doesn't want you bumping your toes or your knees or your elbows in the dark. Well, it doesn't want you to be in pain. It wants you to be free. It wants you to be carefree. Now they say free, shame free. Haven't seen him. But it wants you to be free. And in order to be free, you know that you're the one holding the keys. You can either imprison or you can free the self. The law wants you to know that whichever of those that you choose, you're at the helm. So that is what it is. So take comfort. And again, if you don't believe it, test it so that you can know it. Because you're not supposed to believe either, by way of law. You're supposed to know. And that's why it wants you to know who and what you are, so you know what you are capable of. Because beliefs change and they come and go, But when you can say, oh, I am, that is the foundation upon which you build everything. So without knowing, what's the foundation going to be like? Well, now you out here and you're just rocking and weaving and tossing and turning everywhere because you're not sure of who you are. The law wants you to be sure of who you are because it's telling you, hey, hey, as a man thinketh, therefore he is. Who are you? It wants you to know who you are because of the importance of knowing oneself, not who you heard you were, not who you heard that you were. Because some people will paint a picture of you, but we don't live by the picture others paint. We live by what we sculpt ourselves into being. So that today, my beautiful friends, is your quest. Should you choose to accept that quest, find out who you are so that you can stand 10 toes down. I learned that one too. So that you can say it with your whole chest. I am. Every which way you turn, the law is there and it emboldens you. It comforts you. It sure does. Is that not better than, and you're gnawing your nails off because you don't know? The law wants you to know. So test yourself. How are you going to test yourself? But they tell you to start with something little. Why little? Not because size matters, but because babies don't always run the first time out the gate. They teeter-totter with that first little step, and they get confident in that little step, and they do another one, and they get confident in that one. Why? Because they're practicing. They're not just saying, let me start small. They're practicing the role of walking, and the role of walking entails left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. That's the role of walking. So they have to practice. So it's not that they're taking, we call it baby steps, because babies are unsure of themselves so far until they start taking that first step and they build confidence and they go, ah, and they look at you and they grin and they say, try and keep up with me. And that's when they start running. And what do? Try to keep up. But what are you keeping up with? Their confidence. And they move as confidently as those little legs can take them. It is an amazing thing to watch. So that's what you're doing when you test yourself. And you say, all right, this crazy lady said, if I decide what I want to be mentally and I begin to rehearse it mentally, now, how would I feel if somebody just was ahead of me in line and said to the cashier, well, I'll pay for their order too? They don't even know what I'm getting. I could be getting the most expensive thing, but they don't care. They just said, I'm paying for their order. How are you going to respond to that? Oh, snap. Wow. Thanks. How kind of you. I so appreciate that. You must have known the kind of day I was having. What are you going to say? How are you going to respond? Well, then that's what you rehearse. Why? Because you know that sooner or later somebody's going to buy you your order. And then you say, oh, yeah, I did that. And then you say, ooh, what else can I do? What else can I create? See? So size is not the issue. You have to start with something so you build your know how, build your confidence in what you are capable of doing so that you are bold when you say, I am deliberately creating. Let's get the bowl. Tiffany, you're so sweet. She goes, yes, I'm everywhere for you, hon. Oh, that's sweet. Thank you. Let's get that bowl out. Countdown initiated. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jeff, darling, thank you for being here in these Twitter streets. And I know that Dee Dee and Lilith and Cuddles, they will all catch the replay. It is great to see you. Go forth and be awesome today because, well, I am that. I am. But that's how I'm saying it. You would say it. Much love to you, Jeff. Much love. YouTube and Facebook. You know I love you all. Miss Tiffany and Sugar Vision and Shea Butter. The better man and A not. If I didn't call your name, that's because you're not in the chat. But it doesn't mean I don't love you. I will see you all soon.